I'm always honored and privileged when the Lord opens a door for me to share my story. It's a story that I'm going to share with you today briefly, but it was a story that took me over a decade to tell because of the guilt and shame that I felt from choosing abortion 32 years ago. And I can tell you that it never goes away. And although God forgives for all things, including abortion, it still is always there. A girl recently wrote me on one of my social media posts that she follows me, and she said, "I'm 15 years old, Victoria, and I'm pregnant. I've been watching you for years, and I admire the work you do, and I've watched your videos on YouTube or on social media, and I just so admire what you do and who you are and what you've become. So I've decided, because I'm too young to have a baby, I'm gonna go ahead and have abortion because I can still end up like you." And I immediately asked her for her phone number so I could call her. And when we spoke on the phone, I said, "Thank you for your compliments, but I will not allow you to take the life of your child because you look at me and see what you see on social media. Because you look at a woman who's been redeemed, who's been reconciled to the Father, who's been forgiven. But what you don't see are the nights that I'm on the floor of my home crying out to God for the choice I made. Because it never goes away. We learn to live with it, post-abortive people like me, but it's still always there. An alcoholic who is reformed will still long for that drink. And the post-abortive man or woman who finds healing through Christ still longs for the child they lost. So never believe when you see someone that's maybe successful in your eyes because of where they've been, that that's an excuse to go where they were. Because what you haven't seen is what they walked through to get there and how they get up every morning to say, "God, give me another day to make a difference." So 32 years ago, I was a single mother. My husband had abandoned us and decided he didn't want to be married anymore. Without any financial support, emotional support, he took off and actually moved here to California, left us in North Carolina. So here I was, this young 21-year-old mother of two young children. My youngest was 9 months old, and my oldest daughter was 3. So I had to begin working 12 to 14 hours a day just to feed them. So when I found out that this guy where I worked had a crush on me, because my self-esteem was already shot to pieces from what I'd already been through, being so young and abandoned by my husband that I thought would love me forever, I believed every word he said, and I fell madly in love with him. And within 9 months of our relationship, I had a pregnancy test that was positive. Now, I knew the outcome of a pregnancy because I already had 2 children. So when I went to my boyfriend, as terrified as I was, and honestly a little ashamed because I wasn't married to him, of what people would think, he didn't give me the reaction that I thought he would. I thought he'd be excited because he loved me and said he wanted to marry me, and we'd have children later, and we were gonna grow old together and put our teeth in the same jar. Some of you will get that on your way home. So I believed him. But when I told him I was pregnant, the first thing out of his mouth wasn't, "Oh, this is amazing, let's get married, let's have a child, I'm ready to start our family together now." It was, "You know, this isn't a good time for us. We've only been together for 9 months, and you're so early in your pregnancy, you know what you should probably do is call about getting an abortion." I was shocked. The man that I thought was gonna protect me just told me he wanted me to end the life of our child. So I called the abortion clinic in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I had a long conversation with them. And when I told her my story and how I was struggling as a single mother, this is what she said to me over the phone. "Well, don't you think it'd be really selfish of you to bring another mouth to feed when you can barely feed the 2 you've got? And you're only about 6 weeks pregnant, so there's nothing there but a blob of tissue, nothing more than a clump of cells. And it'll be just like removing a tumor. So let's get you in right away so we can take care of this for you, because this is the best decision for you to make right now, especially if your boyfriend's telling you he's not ready. especially when you're struggling as a single mother. So I believed her. And I made the appointment. And on a Saturday morning, because my boyfriend had to go out of town and wasn't even there to drive me to that abortion clinic, I told my babysitter that I hired to take care of my 2 small girls that I was going shopping and I'd be back in a few hours. I didn't tell anybody else because I was too ashamed. Hey girls, when you don't want to tell your mother something you're about to do, that's called a clue. So driving that 25 minutes to the abortion clinic in Charlotte, North Carolina, I can remember placing my hand on my stomach and begging this unborn child for forgiveness. Telling this child, this was the best decision for you. I hope you can forgive me, but this is the best decision because I don't want to bring you into this mess. It'll be so hard for me to take care of you, so I know this is what I should do. Even thinking about adoption wasn't an option for me because in my mind, in that crisis situation, I was convincing myself, if you go ahead and have this baby, you'll end up not wanting to put it up for adoption. You'll end up having to keep it. So the rationale in my mind was have the abortion, take care of the issue, take care of your problem, because if you give birth, you'll end up changing your mind and you'd never put this baby up for adoption. Now, how insane is that? That I convinced myself an abortion was a better option than an adoption plan. So I drove myself to that abortion clinic. There were no picketers outside. There was no one outside. Whether they would have made a difference or not, I don't know. And I'm not talking about picketers that hold up signs of dead babies. That's not my style. If it's yours, that's your business. It's not mine. I don't believe in screaming at women that are walking into abortion clinics, calling them murderers. I don't believe that gets anywhere. I believe they need love and compassion. That's what these women need because they're in a crisis and they don't know where to turn. But there was nobody there that day. And I walked into that abortion clinic, and I'll never forget, the same woman I was talking to on the phone was there to take my cash, my $350 cash, because that's what my child's life was worth. And I sat in that room with her, and she looked at me and said, I'm so glad you made the decision to come in. This is the best decision. You know it is. I'm so proud of you that you've made the right choice. Remember what I told you on the phone. It's not really a baby right now. There's nothing in there but tissue. And I'll never forget looking at her and saying, through tears, are you sure this is the right thing? I've got 2 children. I know what a pregnancy's outcome is. Are you sure I'm doing the right thing? And she took me by the hand and she said, oh, honey, do you think our government would allow it to be legal if it could harm you in any way? Don't even get me started on that right now. We don't have time. But here's what I want you to hear about what happened in that room before I walked in and allowed them to take the life of my child. This sweet, kind woman who had spent an hour on the phone earlier in the week making the appointment, convincing me this was what was best for me. After she looked at me and said, when you leave here, never think of this again. You'll be able to have more children later when the timing's better. So when you leave, just don't ever think of it again. As I handed her my $350 cash, this kind, sweet, compassionate woman changed before my eyes, and the next words out of her mouth were, now if you change your mind when you're on that table, you don't get your money back. We don't give refunds here. I walked out of that room and I waited for my name to be called. They called me into the next room. The nurse had me undress. Sit on this table, he'll be in a minute. Tears streaming down my face once again. Are you sure I'm doing the wrong way? Excuse me, are you sure I'm doing the right thing? I don't know if I want to do this. I'm just not sure. Honey, you're going to be fine. It's not going to take long. You'll be fine. You can even go out tonight if you want. You're going to be fine. The next person that walked in was the doctor, short little guy, white hair, never forget him. He walked in really fast, I mean, trust me, I wasn't the only girl there. And this is going to sound pretty graphic, but this is what he said. Scoot down and spread your legs. I did as I was told. And I can remember looking up at the ceiling, thinking, I want to get out of here. Oh my God, I want to scream. I want to scream no. I want to scream, I've changed my mind. I want to leave. But the words wouldn't come out. And do you know what I was more fearful about? I was more fearful of making them angry. So I kept my mouth shut. They took my baby in a matter of minutes. But what they never could take from me was the memory of my baby. And that's what happens every day in abortion clinics across this country. Women are being lied to. They're not being told the truth. They're being manipulated in the most critical time of crisis that they've ever found themselves in. Because they know what to say to them to get them to go through with it. Because the abortion industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The abortion industry has nothing, in my opinion, to do with women's health care. It has to do with money. When they took me into the next room and said, stay in this recovery room for 30 minutes, take these 2 Tylenols, then you can leave. I lasted maybe 5 minutes. There were rows and rows of women in that room, and young women and older women and young girls, and the only thing you could hear was the wailing of every person in that room. Some of them were clutching their stomachs. Some of them were bent over. Some of them were sobbing. Some of them were silently crying, but you could just hear every tear that fell, including mine. And I told them to give me my clothes. I wanted to get out. When I got out, I ran to the elevator. And as I stood in that elevator, I knew then I'd just made the greatest mistake of my life. And I knew I was never going to be the same. And my life had changed forever. It took over 10 years for me to finally confess what I had done to someone who could help me. And it was a local pregnancy center that I went to where I asked for help because I couldn't live with the guilt and shame anymore. And I went through post-abortion counseling, and it changed my life. Because I want to tell you, in a room this size, somebody in this room has either had an abortion or you know someone who has. When 1 out of 4 women in this country has had an abortion, they are sitting in our churches too. I can guarantee you there's someone here that's been affected. And I would encourage you to reach out to somebody you trust to get help, because there is help available. And don't be crippled by an abortion like I was for over a decade. It changed me. It made me get involved in relationships that weren't healthy for me because I thought I deserved it. I thought, how could God ever give someone like me any form of happiness when I had taken the life of my own child? God must hate me. But I was wrong. Because when I accepted Christ's forgiveness for having an abortion, that's when God said, now watch what I'm going to do. You're going to share your message with as many people that I put in front of you because they need to hear the truth of what an abortion is. We're living in a country today where our society believes abortion is no less than having a tooth pulled. We're watching them celebrate in New York, lighting up buildings, because we can now have abortions past 40 weeks. And after the child's born, they're blocking bills to protect those babies that are born alive from a botched abortion. This is the country we live in today. And I'm convinced, you guys, that you're the generation who's going to have to make a difference, because I will stand here and tell you, my generation and the generation before me have failed us. You have to be the one that stands up and says, enough is enough. People try to tell me, well, Victoria, abortion's fine up to 6 weeks, up to 8 weeks. It's not really a baby. Well, how convenient for you, since you've already been born. Think about this. From conception, Science has proven we have our own unique DNA. From conception, we are individually different human beings. The only difference between the ones of you sitting in this room right now and me and all of us in this room, all of the people on this planet, from the moment of conception to today is growth. That's it. We're the same. We have the same DNA. At that moment, everything is determined about who we are, from our eye color, from our hair color, so many different characteristics. Yet the only thing that has changed is that we're older. We're conceived, we become a zygote. Then we become an embryo. Then we become a fetus. Then we become a baby that's born. Then we become a toddler. Then we become a preschooler and a preteen and a teenager. And then we become adults and then senior citizens if we make it that far. And then we die. That's the only difference. We're Christians in this room. I'm assuming I'm talking to Jesus-believing Christians who believe what the Word of God says. So that in itself is enough proof for us. But let's just say you're sitting here, like someone told me a couple days ago, well, I don't believe in God, Victoria. I don't believe in God, so I don't have to believe that abortion is wrong. I said, what has that got to do with whether abortion is wrong or not? Whether you believe in God. Let's put God aside. You're an atheist, agnostic, whatever you identify as. But let's talk about human beings. Is it okay for us to murder someone? Well, of course not. Is it okay for us to do X, Y, Z? Of course not. Then what has God got to do with you believing someone shouldn't be murdered? We've got to get out of this mentality about what's a woman's right. It's pro-woman to be a pro-abortion. Let me tell you from a woman who's had an abortion, there is nothing pro-woman about abortion. The effects that women have from going through an abortion are not healthy. They are not pro-woman. I suffered for years from the anxiety, from the guilt, from the shame. I know women who've suffered for decades and decades before they find healing through Christ, through post-abortion counseling. And they look at me and say, they told me it was the best thing for me. This would be the healthiest decision I could make. What's healthy about getting in a relationship with a guy who beats you because you think you deserve it? What's healthy about becoming promiscuous or an alcoholic or an addict because you can't stand the memory of what you did? What's healthy about that? And now let me talk about the men for a minute, because we've made this only about the woman, and the issue's all about poor women. All the women. We've got to do this for the women. Let me tell you something. Men are hurting too. After I went through my own healing from my abortion, I wrote a book about the effects abortion has on women. I met with women who'd gone through abortion, and I wrote their stories through the interviews with them so that it would help other women not make that choice. So when my book was about to be published, I called him. It had been 10, 12 years since we had spoken because we broke up after our abortion. And remember this statistic, 9 out of 10 times where an abortion occurs, couples don't stay together. It's too traumatic of an experience to stay together. It's a reminder of what they did. So he and I said, all right, we'll have this abortion. We'll have kids later. We're going to get married later. I love you. You love me. We didn't make it. And when we broke up, I grew to despise him because I felt like he went on with his life, but I was the one dealing with all these ramifications from the choice we had made, that he had pressured me to make. But yet he's going out there doing his own thing because we had a lot of same friends in the same circles. So I knew what was happening with his life. Praise God, we never ran into each other before this time. But I thought he should know about the book. I had gone through healing myself. So this man who I'd hated all these years, I picked up the phone and I called him. And I said, hey, it's me. He knew my voice immediately, and he started to sob. He said, I've been waiting for this call for over a decade to beg you for forgiveness for what I made you do. It has haunted me all these years, and I've been in therapy for 8 years dealing with it. Will you forgive me? First thing I realized was how much I hated him and how much unforgiveness I had toward this man. But in that moment, I forgave him. And I said, yes. You know, we tend to think that if we hold unforgiveness towards somebody else, we're like big shots. So, you know, but unforgiveness is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. And in that moment, I realized the relief that came from me, from hearing him asking me and me granting him forgiveness, of how it changed me. But the second thing that happened to me in that phone call was it shifted my paradigm as to how I view men in this issue. And I felt like the Lord spoke to my heart and said, don't forget about these men. Whether they paid for it, whether they drove her, whether they convinced her, pressured her, or made her do it, eventually these men come to the realization that that was their child too. So what I realized then was we've got to start talking about men in this country who are hurting from abortion. 60 million plus abortions since Roe v. Wade. That's 120 million mothers and fathers out there dealing with the ramifications of it. That's a lot of people. And I believe it has a snowball effect in their societies, where they work, in their families, because they're not dealing with it. People are afraid to stand up and say, I am post-abortive, because they're so terrified of being rejected from their church, of being rejected from their family or their friends. They already feel rejected from God. So if that is you, and you're sitting here this morning, and you are a post-abortive man or woman, I am gonna ask you to reach out to me, get my card. You don't have to tell me anything today. Find out how to get in touch with me. It's very easy, Victoria@SaveTheStorks.com. You can get in touch with me, and I will help you find the resources you need to help you be free of that guilt and shame you feel. Remember, I told you at the beginning, it never goes away. It's always gonna be there. That doesn't mean I can't function. It doesn't mean I'm in the fetal position every day, but I'm not gonna stand here and lie to you and tell you that when God forgives us, it's still not there and you're not sad about it. If a young girl comes to an altar and she's pregnant from having sex outside of marriage and asks God to forgive her for having sex outside of marriage, is he going to forgive her? This means yes. But she's still pregnant. There's consequences for decisions that we make. My consequence will be that I'll long to see my child until I'm in heaven. My consequence is that I'd rather be working at a bank, to be honest with you, than traveling around the country sharing a story like this. There's a new movie out called Unplanned. Has anybody in here seen it yet? One person. Thank you. Anybody else? It's playing then around here. What theater is it playing at? Okay. I am going to put a challenge out there to you guys, whether you believe anything I'm saying or whether you're sitting here and you don't know if you're pro-life, pro-choice, or you're on the fence, whatever the case is. This movie is not propaganda. This movie is not doing anything but showing the truth about abortion in this country. It is one of the greatest films, I believe, that has ever been made in the history of, in my lifetime, on the abortion issue. So I'm gonna ask you to please go buy a ticket and go see this movie. If you're sitting here and you're pro-choice, because look, I go to Christian schools, I still meet people that are pro-choice. They may not tell anybody, but they're pro-choice. I'll buy your ticket for you. That's how important this movie is. Abby Johnson was a Planned Parenthood clinic director, just like that woman who took my money, for 8 years. And for 8 years, she was convinced she was doing what was best for women. For 8 years, she believed this was the right thing to do. For 8 years, she fought her husband who wanted her to leave Planned Parenthood, her parents who said, why are you working where they're having abortions? Because she truly believed this is what was best, to give women the choice. But on a Saturday morning, she witnessed an abortion for the first time in 8 years, and it changed everything for her. When she watched that 13-week-old baby trying to get away from the machine and trying to get away from the cannula that was going to suck it out of its mother's womb. It changed everything because she knew the truth then. See, here's the problem with people in this country. They don't want to know the truth because they want to keep pleading ignorance. Because once you know the truth, you can't anymore. Because then God says, there's the line. Which side are you going to stand on? I'm feeding some truth to you today, and I am telling you that we have science on our side. We have the medical community on our side that says a baby feels fear and it feels pain in the womb. Science says we are unique from conception. We are human beings from conception. That's not some Christian scientist. That's science. We have everything on our side now. So what's your excuse if we don't believe? What are we going to do about it? To stand up and say, I'm going to fight for these unborn children. But it isn't just them. Hear me when I tell you, it's these mothers and fathers who need the truth. Because when that child's aborted, in my belief, my child immediately was in the arms of Christ. But I'm the one who's left here to deal with what I did. My boyfriend that I had that phone call with, he was left to deal with what he'd done. On a morning that we opened up a pregnancy center right outside Nashville, Tennessee, I was cutting the ribbon with the mayor, and we were offering free ultrasounds again at the pregnancy center, which we did every day. And 9 out of 10 times when a woman came in who was considering abortion and she had an ultrasound, she chose life. Because you can't deny a heartbeat. It's hard to deny arms and legs. But on the morning that we opened this second center up to save lives, I got a phone call right after from a friend who said, I thought you should know that he passed away in his sleep this morning. He was only 46 years old. But I was so glad that years earlier, I made that phone call to him so we could make peace and that he would know I forgave him. Now, if you've had an abortion and you're sitting here, I'm not telling you to get on the phone today and call that person from your past. I'm telling you to get healing first before you do anything else. And that's going to take courage to go tell somebody you trust. 3,000 babies a day are dying at the hands of abortionists in this country. 3,000. I don't expect everybody in this room to start going around and marching places and doing different things, but maybe you could volunteer at your local pregnancy center. Maybe you could be more vocal on social media. Maybe you can talk to your friends in love. Talk to your friends and have discussions about it. Maybe you'll find a way and let God lead you to an area where you can help fighting for the unborn. But just keep this in mind. Don't believe the lie that if you do, that means you're taking a woman's right away. Being pro-life is pro-woman because we're helping these women not make a choice that's going to haunt them for the rest of their life. If a woman chooses abortion, I'm still going to be there for her. I'm still going to love her through it, and I'm going to help her with counseling. But my goal is before she walks in, that I can share my story with her or share the truth, that there are other options besides immediately going to abortion. But that's what our country is trying to feed to this society, that's the best option if you don't want a child, if you're not ready for a child, if you're too young for a child, and the list goes on and on and on. Abortion should never be the option. You may have heard about these laws that are being passed that we've got to let women have abortions because their babies might be killing them and their health is at risk. There has never, hear me when I tell you, never been a case where a woman's baby has to be killed to save her life. The doctor would simply need to just perform an emergency C-section. He doesn't need to take the time to kill the child. He would just take 10 minutes to get the child out. There's an abortion doctor right now on YouTube who's done 1,200 abortions, over 100 of them late term. who has come out of that world, and now he is speaking so people will hear him. And this is what he said: never was it necessary for me to kill these children to save the mother. It's quicker to get them out through C-section. Think about that. So if you want to talk about propaganda, that's propaganda. You guys, don't be stupid. Don't be ignorant. You don't believe me? Go look it up yourself. Go see the movie Unplanned. Pray for God to show you the truth, because this American Holocaust needs to become unthinkable. And I'm not talking about getting involved in politics. Maybe some of you, that's your future, and praise God for it. We need more pro-life politicians. That's not what I'm called to do. But if we can change the hearts and minds of people with the truth about what abortion is and what it isn't, and how it is damaging men and women and our society, it won't matter what the laws say, because abortion will become unthinkable. And that should be our goal.
Discover who you're called to be at Biola University, a leading Christ-centered university in Los Angeles, with programs on campus and online. Subscribe for more of our videos and learn more at biola.edu.